The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
That's the my 6 minutes after 12 midday now on Mannin Line through till 1. Open line today, so whatever's on your mind. It could be that Skelly statue. Did you hear that? Somebody said, is it Lawrence's legacy? It's a giant statue of King Orry, 3 metres tall, 1.8 metres wide. Illuminated King Orry at St John's. Are we ready for another statue, would you think? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. And the former Health and Social Care Minister you heard in the news says that government's mandate to Manx care and the subsequent operating plan for this into next year, 25-26, evidence a forthcoming horrific reduction in service level for the people of the Isle of Man. As Ramsey MHK Laurie Huberberg documents go before Tynwald later this month. He says it's the largest assault on the NHS care that the island has ever seen. Any thoughts on that? Anything else, to be quite honest? We're open line through till 1. Robert's first with us today. Hi, Robert.
Hi, how you doing? Just over at Gry, just taking it easy. I've got a bit of memory loss at the moment because I fell over, but we're doing okay. My question was about King Orry. What's actually going to surround the statue?
No, nobody knows. They've just asked for planning permission, so presumably there'll be an artist's impression of it.
Well, is that going to go up on Manx Radio, the plans?
I would imagine it would, yeah, once they're public. Once we get a link through it, we'll let everybody know. So, have you ever been to King Orry's grave? He's disappeared. Let's get to David now. Hi, David. Have you ever been to King Orry's grave, David? I
have, and it's amazing, really, what is on the island, to tell you the truth. Which I don't think I'm going to be disparaging, really. I suppose the younger generation have either researched or got into. And I couldn't even believe that they don't teach any politics at the schools.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, that's a question in itself, and I'm sure that because remember, politicians, I don't know, you may have been in Tynwald at the time, but politicians fell over themselves to get the vote for 16-year-olds, and we talk to 16-year-olds all the time, and not many of them know that much about Manx politics.
And it was a good tick in the box, for the Isle of Man, and a good tick in the box, I presume, for those that are engaged at the time. I don't know what the stats were that came out of how many 16s actually physically voted, which brings me on to a quick thing too. There's a HSBC scam going around because I've just been hit with it. I've not given anything, but it says they want your details and ring this telephone number back. So if it looks too good, it's a scam. Or ring your bank up personally and ask, but you don't have a relationship manager anymore, do we?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? By the time you get through to somebody, they could be anywhere.
Well, yeah, you're right on that. But I want to flip over regarding now the MLCs are all in being now. They've elected them. Hopefully they're all going to take part. I think majority. I listened to them again on the talkback thing, and they're all wanting to engage, which is good. And that should help when Mr. Cannon's on Friday there, that some of these individuals have got skills and we should use them, whether they're MLCs or MHKs, because we've got 8 of them. MHKs, I think, now are probably doing not a great deal for their money. And we've got the MLCs are getting paid as well now. I don't know when they're in next week. They get sworn in next week.
That's it. I mean, I just wonder sometimes, with MLCs, by definition, they're a bit under the radar, are they? They don't have a public profile. So half the time, you kind of struggle to know what it is they do. As you know, they do a lot of stuff. It's mainly reading, revising, and acquainting themselves with the legislation. But in terms of public profile, do you think MLCs should be better known? Should they engage more with the public?
I would say yes, because at the end of the day, something's coming up shortly to do with local authorities and this local authority bill. which has gone pear-shaped because of amendments and stuff like that. I don't want to cry anybody off for standing for election in the local authorities. It's a great place to be. You can do things for the community, and you can get involved at an early stage. And then later in life, if you want to get into big politics, you could do, or you want to be an MLC. But I'll be certainly looking at some of the MLCs and saying, which departments are they going in? And what have they got responsibility for? Because some of the other MHKs are not doing anything at all, so fill the gap. Chief Minister, and make them work for their money.
Okay, right. So, just brief us, give us a kind of pen portrait of what the local government legislation represents.
It doesn't represent the views of the local authorities. We weren't consulted on it. I'm just speaking as an individual commissioner now, not as the spokesman for Onken and such like that.
Well, I've heard on the grapevine, David, that none of the local authorities agree with this. Would I be right in saying that?
Yes. And the Municipal Association, there's going to be a meeting of all senior politicians, saying local authorities, maybe they're all going to, if we get a big enough venue, we can all come and voice our opinions. I know Peel's already done it, Moran thing. Onken has done the same. If your reporter would have come to Onken on Tuesday there, she would have heard a little bit. But there is stuff in the public domain there. I would encourage people to read it. Because what it is, it's worse than having democracy. It's telling local authorities, in my opinion, what to do. And at the end of the day, we're a democratic organisation, all the local authorities around the island. You can't tell us what to do because I don't think you've got the virus to it. And I don't want it to be a massive a cost in money. But I would hope that we might have to go to the president of Tynwald and ask the MLCs to adjudicate on what's gone on. That would be a first, wouldn't it, for something to do?
And again, this is something that it passes the public by, David. They don't know how you perceive the threat to be, or what the perceived threat is, or what government thinks they're doing, what they think they're adding to this. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you one fact anyway, which is in the public domain. When Phil Gorman was the Minister for the DOI, and hopefully he's probably listening in, he signed a document in 2015 that was to be with local authorities, that we would do certain things and they would do certain things. That document since 2015, and it says in the law, it had to be discussed and agreed again every year after that. It's never been done. So the DOI needs to pull its socks up. All right?
Okay, appreciate it, David. Thanks for calling.
See ya.
Good to hear from you. It's 14 minutes past 12 on Manx Radio with Mannin Line through till 1. Adam's on now. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Andy. You all right?
Very well, thanks. Yes, good.
Good news. This statue sounds good of King Orry. It's obviously very important that we remember our North Gaelic roots and the kingdom of Soda and Man, and obviously the Manx Sea Kings and all the rest of it, King Olaf and King Orry and all the rest of them. And but I wanted to talk about the Sunken Gardens, Andy, and how the plans for them are looking very good. And I'm really impressed by the plans for them, which were put out by the corporation last week, to have a great big wooden pirate ship on Douglas Promenade in the Sunken Gardens for kids to play on, and have all sorts of Archibald Knox features and things. And it got me thinking, Andy, the government plans for the Promenade Walkway last year were awful. They were really dreadful. It was ridiculous, sort of cartoony pink horses and things supposed to be fanned, who I think some obscure thing in Irish mythology. And why don't they do the walkway with an Archibald Knox pattern, Andy?
Well, as you say, it depends. You see, everybody's got different thoughts, Adam. Lots of people think that we shouldn't look back, we should look forward. There are traditionalists who want things done in the traditional way. There are some people who say keep a bit of both. And really, because remember when the Victorians created the walkway, when they reclaimed all the land back and created the promenade, they went for their style. So, the Victorians were very dismissive of other stuff. They wanted their own style, and that was that. So it just depends. I don't know. What would you like to see on the prom?
Well, I would like to see an Archibald Knox style promenade, and in fact, I did a design for it and then sent it to some of the MHKs a couple of years ago. But none of them took me up on it, and none of them sort of got back to me about it. But I would like to see an Archibald Knox pattern all the way along the promenade, and you could use permeable paving and things to allow the water, when it comes, if indeed the water does come over the new wall that's been built, that you could use permeable paving to do it all with, and you could use lovely sort of coloured glass granules to do like where Archibald Knox has on his designs on his pewter and silverware areas of colourful enamel, and you could simulate those areas of colourful enamel on the promenade using granulated grass. It would match the lovely green and blue paving stones that have been put down as part of the regeneration scheme on the promenade, and I think that would be a million times better than what the government proposed last year for the new walkway. And at the same time as doing the walkway, Andy, which needs to be done, and everybody knows it does, they could redo the lights, which they got wrong, and put up the festoon lights again. And the other thing they could do is I can't remember what the other thing was, Andy. I was going to say.
Well, just going back to the festoon lights. Now, I'll be honest with you. We keep an open mind on Mannin Line, but nobody has ever phoned Mannin Line and said, it's brilliant, it's far better than what the festoon lights were. And it's difficult not to be kind of downcast on this, because most people, and in fact I invite anybody, if you prefer what's there now to when the festoon lights were on, the ones that used to go across the promenade and down the lamp standards, nobody seems to like what's there now. Half the time, some of them don't work for a start, and it just doesn't look like a seaside resort. So you think we should bring the festoon lights back?
I do, and I think what I was going to say, Andy, the other thing, by the way, was horse trams. They could do as part of a promenade walkway plan, they could include an Archibald Knox design going across the promenade, the festoon lights, new lights, replacing the ones we've got, which we don't like and nobody likes. And the other thing they could do is include the horse tram to finish it off to go to the sea terminal. But I think, Andy, the lights that we've got now, which Councillor Christian said at the time that they were bespoke lights designed for Douglas, and I think they probably were, because there's nowhere else with lights like them. But they don't really work very well, because if you stand on one side of Douglas Bay, you cannot really see the lights on the other side of Douglas Bay. And I know the drawings which were done of the lights showed them having, by the landscape architects who put them up, they showed that they had a beam of light between the lights, so there would be a colour beam of light between the lights, and it just doesn't really work. It worked on the drawings, but it doesn't work in real life.
And when you're coming back on the boat as well, you really can't, whereas before you saw the festoon lights, drawing the outline of the bay, and it doesn't happen now when you come back on the boat.
No, it doesn't happen now when you come back on the boat, and it is a shame, Andy. The one thing I will say, it does, at least the promenade is flooded with lights by the white lights shining down on the roadway, so that reflects off the hotels and the apartments, and you can see in the distance it does look as if there's a continuous sort of band of light, but it doesn't. But there's not this kind of sparkly, beautiful effect that we got from the promenade lights in the past. So I think really that needs to be included as part of a walkway proposal, and they need to relook at the drawings they've had done, which were released last year, and consider putting an Archibald Knox walkway down, and consider doing the promenade lights again and finishing the horse trams off as part of a new plan. But I do think it's wonderful, the plans the corporation have put forward. They look professional, they look really good for the sunken gardens, the park, and a new garden on Queen's Promenade.
Okay, appreciate it, Adam. Thanks for calling today.
Thanks, Andy.
Good to hear from you. The president of Tynwald submitted a planning application to install a statue of King Orry in St John's next to Tynwald Hill. Now, it's going to be illuminated and will stand just under 3 metres tall. It's about 10 feet, 1.8 metres wide, about 6 feet wide, depicting King Orry with his sword sheathed and his left arm outstretched. The estimated cost of the project's not been disclosed, but Manx Radio has been told that the sculpture is being privately funded. There will be no use of public money. A private individual is going to be funded privately. The King Orry is credited with introducing the Isle of Man's legal system, and his arrival on the Isle of Man is considered the starting point of Manx history as we know it. One of those things, we have a Viking past. You only need to go around some of the old burial places to know what our Viking past is. And there was one journalist here at Manx Radio who maintained for years what we should have is something like a 30-foot high Viking just by the War Memorial, illuminated, so anybody coming at night could see this enormous Viking and will be in no doubt that the Isle of Man has a Viking past. Just part of our history. So it's going to be free anyway. President of Tynwald said it's going to be privately funded. What do you think about this? Here's Tony now. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Very well. I'm trying to envisage King Orry.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea. But I'm just wondering why that's what we're discussing instead of discussing the parlous state of the nation. We've got Michelle Hayward, who's newly elected into a new latest post and doesn't want anybody to argue with her, and we're going to have a zone where you can't talk. But her most important thing seems to be now 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. And I question, has she got nothing else to do that's more important than that? Things like the harbour, the boat doesn't work, the seawall, the stones on the beach.
Air traffic control.
It's a disaster zone. Everything they touch is a disaster. Without doubt, everything they've touched for the last 5 years has been a disaster. I don't think I can think of one thing that DOI has achieved that's been positive, that hasn't cost a fortune and been overcosted. At the end of the day, we're paying out money left a hand over fist, and we're not getting anywhere. We're not getting anything for it. And Michelle Hayward's most important thing is to announce that we're going to have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Well, that in itself is okay, because if it means that one less child gets knocked over in a built-up area, that's fine. And I agree the fact that the DOI doesn't have a record that's of unalloyed brilliance. But the thing is, spending money is okay as long as it's roaring in through the till the other side. If we got roaring revenues, we wouldn't be talking about this, Tony.
No, we wouldn't. But the issue is we haven't got roaring revenues. And in fact, every time we do anything, we borrow from the pension funds. And the pension fund is going to go broke long before we get any of this achieved, before King Orry can point his finger anywhere. They don't seem to have any connection to reality, any of them. All they're doing is carrying on with what they think should be done. This is not about something that's better for the Isle of Man. I don't have a problem with a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. I do have a problem with putting it as a blanket, because that means 55,000 road signs and painting on the road, and then afterwards it'll be, we don't really need it here. But instead of implementing it in a sensible way, that we'll put 20 mile an hour in this road, and see how it works. No, we'll do a blanket. I just find the whole government, every department is disastrous. Not one of them can do their job. Treasury is a joke. All they want to do is tax the low-income people more. I mean, he says, we've reduced taxes. No, you haven't. You put it up last year too, and you took down one this year. So that's not reducing taxes at all. And to do that, he's had to borrow money from the pension fund. But he hasn't borrowed it. He'll just take it. Because don't worry, the pension fund will recover. it just beggars belief that there is so much incompetence within government that there's no thought given to anybody and what's going to happen in the long term. It's just about what we'll do today.
There's been mention in the past, and bearing in mind that we've been a low-tax jurisdiction since the 1960s, when the governor then, Ronald Garvey, told Tynwald that they didn't have to impose super tax. So we've been a low-tax jurisdiction for well over 60-odd years. And there has been some suggestion that we shouldn't be a low-tax jurisdiction. In fact, that some people should be taxed more. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are the last budget shouldn't have been 2% on the low-income people. It should have been 8% on anybody who earns more than £80,000, 10% on anybody who earns more than £100,000, 6% on anybody who earns over 60, and going down 5% on anybody over 50, and then leave the 2% off completely and just leave anybody who's under £40,000 alone. Because if you look at your living wage, that's about what you need to earn, £40,000 a year gross, pay your taxes, and you haven't got a lot left after that. But instead of doing that, what we've done is we'll just tax the low earners, because that's the vast majority. And then you turn around and say, well, OK, we'll invite all these people to come to the Isle of Man. Well, how are you going to actually physically, one, how are they going to get here because the boat doesn't run on time, or the plane for that matter? How are you actually going to get them in place and tax them? Because half of them will come here and they'll have their own companies. So they won't pay income tax, they'll pay corporation tax. A lot of the doctors at the hospital, they're not employed as individual doctors, they're employed through companies that they own, which are not actually registered in the Isle of Man, but Manx Care is paying those people a huge amount of money, which is not getting taxed. It's getting taxed at corporate level. So you think about what's going on, and then Laurie Hooper's sour grapes Laurie is moaning because he didn't do his job. And instead of doing his job, he's now moaning because everybody else is saying, well, we'll do this, we'll do that. I don't have a problem with what they do or don't do, but I do have a problem with incompetence. And we are completely incompetent in this government from every angle. And DOI is the best example you can think of, because DOI can't do anything right as far as I can see. Everything they've touched has ended up 5 times over budget, and also never got finished.
Okay, all right, Tony.
Can you think of one thing that they've done that's been a success?
I'm still thinking.
Correct. I keep thinking. I think there must be something they've done. I'll leave you for that. Have a thought on that, because that's what the future is for us.
Okay, all right,
Unless
Tony.
we get rescued by the 16-year-olds.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks for calling today, Julian's up now. Hi, Julian.
How do I follow that, Andy? Yeah, I think you inserted ATC there, didn't you, for the air traffic control as well? Not doing too well either, is it?
What can't speak can't lie. That's all I'll say. At the moment, we haven't. I don't know whether we've heard whether they've actually appointed a head of air traffic control yet. We've not heard. Oh, there was supposed to be a temporary head of air traffic control because Mr. Pugh has taken over as temporary airport controller, hasn't he? So we don't quite know what's happening there. All we do know is that there are still people taking very, fully justified legal fatigue breaks, but often timetables don't quite work like that. Sometimes planes overrun and they're late and get caught up in that. So that's where we are at the moment.
Sounds like previous managers at the airport weren't, for the ATC, weren't forward planning on hiring, it looks like, doesn't it?
Well, we don't quite know, and the thing is, we can try and unpick it for as long as we want, but, you don't drive a car by looking in the rear view mirror, you look at it through the windscreen. We have to approach the future, Julian.
Well, that's right. Speaking of windscreens and driving, yesterday's programme, you're at QE2, you're talking to the students, and you mentioned about the 20-mile-per-hour rollout in towns and villages across the island. And they said they weren't aware of it. Do you think that may be because there hasn't been any kind of a consultation to actually ask us if, and like data with all these people that are getting knocked out all over the island as to the justification for this.
Well, the main thrust, I think, came from Ann Corlett, who is Douglas Central MHK, and of course Ann's got a very built-up area for her constituency, and I know because I live there, there's been a lot of mention of the fact that built-up roads with lots of cars, and you often get people whizzing down at over 30 miles an hour, potentially very dangerous. So Ann's campaign was 20 is plenty for around her constituency. Now, if that's going to be rolled out across the Isle of Man, as you say, there may not have been a nationwide and island-wide consultation for that.
Well, even just the words that are being used, you've got housing estates and built-up areas. So I don't suppose Main Road Onken counts as a housing estate. I suppose you might say it's a built-up area, but it's also a thoroughfare, isn't it? And if that's the case, has any thought been given to changing the timing sequence of the lights? Because they're bad enough now. I mean, are they going to even try and improve the traffic flow by letting the lights go better?
Well, that's weird because, of course, it's a staggered junction, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. Especially if you're coming up Royal Avenue and turning left, and then you get you have to sort of wait, don't you? I mean, another consideration is not everyone cycles quickly. So if you're on a hill somewhere in a 20 and you've got a slower cyclist, I mean, I'm reminded of the police driving manual, which is called Roadcraft, and it states that overtaking is the most dangerous manoeuvre and needs to be done as quickly and safely as possible. So if you're reducing the ability to overtake, well, that means people are going to get hung out to dry. And then once you've got a cyclist that is difficult to get past and you get out of it, are we going to see high-speed accidents because of impatience, because everyone's been made late? I don't know. I mean, are we all of a sudden going to see high-speed smashes on the outer roads because people are trying to make up time? Because, you can imagine what this is going to be like.
Well, the thing is that psychologically, the difference between 20 and 30 isn't going to save you no time at all on the Isle of Man, really, is it, in a built-up area?
But you do have traffic flow and things like that. And also, if everyone's doing 20, not casting any aspersions at cyclists, but speed limits don't apply to cyclists as far as I know, and you've got no lower age limit either. So it's not like a motorcyclist where you have to pass a test at a certain age. There's no licensing, there's no insurance. There's no tax, there's no identification, and now you've got e-bikes, and some of those seem suspiciously fast. I wonder whether they've been hacked. And I noticed that before the Welsh government reversed their 20-mile-an-hour rollout, because 500,000 people complained, which is pretty much 3/4 of all the commuters, it's part of the idea that was put forward was to get people doing more active travelling. And one of the reasons they said that was that 98% of pedestrian collisions were by vehicles and cyclists were in 2%. But that didn't mention the fact that if you take the traffic, cyclists only make up 1.7% of the traffic. So if you've got 2% of the collisions, but you've only got 1.7% of the traffic is cyclists, that's quite a lot of people getting knocked over by bicycles. So if you've got more people on bicycles, are we going to see, because, if you look at a bicycle, you don't have crash protection, the brakes are small, you haven't got anti-locking brakes, you haven't got airbags, you've got high centre of gravity, meaning you'll tip over easy, I would imagine. I don't know, I mean, is this going to be a recipe for the opposite to what the safety is being made to do? You've got a combination of people struggling to get past, trying to make up time, being impatient, and then you've got more people on bicycles. I mean, you've seen London, quite a lot of people, I mean, they get killed just with the bus turning and trying to cut through, and, the back comes round and they get caught with it.
Well, as always, we won't know until it happens. But, I mean, you're a biker, aren't you, Julian? How difficult is it to ride a bike at 20 miles an hour?
Well, it's and also if you're on an uphill as well, I mean, if everyone's doing sort of 4 or 5 mile an hour or whatever, I mean, I think somebody needs to look at how traffic flow works. It's a bit like water in a river and things, when you start, there's a certain speed you go, And if those traffic lights in Onken aren't altered on the sequence, I wonder how this is going to work out in the morning. Are people going to have to add like 15 minutes on because you're not going to get the amount of traffic through on a particular signal?
Okay.
I mean, this is where consultations would have been good, I think.
All right, Julian, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Okay, we've got a note in. We asked the Department of Infrastructure. The Department of Infrastructure received 2 petitions from residents in 2020 identifying problems and seeking the implementation of traffic calming and pedestrian safety measures in the area, including 20 mile-per-hour restrictions. A feasibility study was carried out with a number of options suggested. Feedback was suggested from key stakeholders, the general public, particularly residents and businesses in the scheme area, about the proposals and other issues that are affecting the area regarding making our streets suitable for residents, pedestrians and road users. Now, this is concerning the Douglas Central area. There were 592 responses received by the consultation hub. Responses also received by email, paper copies and from drop-in sessions. These are reported on a separate section of a consultation document response, available as a downloadable document. So to what extent do you support the introduction of a 20 mile an hour speed limit within the area? 77% of people. The scheme proposed traffic calming measures on Alexander Drive and Mount Bradder. To what extent do you support the use of traffic calming in these areas? 33% traffic calming, 15% like the idea but would suggest other areas. 10% said they no, but they'd like an alternative area, and 41% didn't support traffic calming in the areas. And to what extent do you support the addition of new road crossings, including zebra-like side road crossings in the area? 57% said yes, 30% said no, 11% were unsure. So there was some consultation, but I just wonder what your thoughts are with this 20 mile per hour speed limit as a blanket across the Isle of Man. Bonzo's on now. Hi, Bonzo.
Hi. Yes, just coming on to not what I'm actually planning to talk about, but just coming on to this business with speed limits. I don't think it's a blanket imposition. I think it's being phased in. I don't think everyone is going to wake up in whatever residential and urban areas on a certain day next week or sort of day later in the month, and everything will be 20 miles an hour. I think initially we've had the zone here in Port St Mary introduced, and then it will be the one in Douglas, and then I think it will roll out progressively, looking at how those respond. I mean, but just Port St Mary, there's a flashing sort of school 20 mile an hour sign when you go up the road towards Four Roads. For Russian school, but there isn't one for school for tomorrow. And you see people buzzing up and down like Billio down the roads. Very, very hard. And of course, with people tending to park sort of nearer the Pelican Crossing, people trying to use the Pelican Crossing can't even see up the road.
I mean, do you think there'll be any unintended consequences for this? Because, I mean, Michelle Haywood said that all residential roads will be reduced to 20 miles per hour, arterial roads at 30, except the main road that runs through Onken. That's going to be reduced to 20% due to pedestrian crossings.
Well, yes. Well, there's considerable, of course, crossing over the main road going through Onken, and in particular, of course, up to Onken School. So, that's certainly an area which needs to have such restrictions. But also, coming back to the unintended consequence, well, it might be an intended consequence, will be that traffic flows more smoothly, and people can actually get to where they want to go more quickly.
As you say, the thing is that nobody's going to save that much time. The difference between 20 and 30 miles per hour over a short period really isn't that much, and it may be more psychological than anything else.
Well, the difference is also that it's how it backs up traffic flows, because people then sort of accelerate to the next big queue at the next junction, rather than there being a continual flow so that there are spaces for people to turn in, and out at the junction. That's what causes the congestion.
Okay. But that wasn't why you called.
That wasn't why I called. I was calling to respond to Tony's observations on the Department of Infrastructure. Now, Michelle Hayward, of course, has only been there since December. So, she's just about got her sort of knees under the desk, really. And within that time, she's had a lot to deal with. And as she was saying, I seem to remember in an interview with Manx Radio, the vast majority of that time has been soaked up by Crogger. And that has stopped her from actually addressing some of the things which she saw as particular priorities to address. So, although there have been some errors, yes, to put it mildly, in the past with the Department of Infrastructure, I think Michelle Hayward knows about those and has got plans to address those. I mean, if we look at her response, for example, to the Manxman incident, she then had to respond to that over the weekend, on the fly, whilst I think coming back from UK, and then do a whole host of media and then prep for the Crogger urgent question the next day, and then do a load of media, etc. for that. God knows how much sleep she got over.
No, I mean,
day.
nobody's saying that she's in any way delinquent in her duty, and of course she has picked up a very heavy load, Bonzo, but she volunteered for the job. She wanted the job.
Well, whether she wanted the job, I don't know about that, but she certainly volunteered. And she certainly got some of the background, with her previous career as a professional diver, to understand things like particularly harbours and such. So I think it's something that she's going to get to grips with, and that she started quite well in getting to grips with. But of course, the reason that things haven't progressed as quickly as she would like, I think, is because of the fact that Crogger has taken up so much of her time. Okay. And she simply hasn't been able to address those priorities.
Okay, all right, Bonzo.
Okay then.
Appreciate it. Thanks for calling today.
Discover Bath Line, the new name in bathrooms at Haldane Fisher. Visit their brand new bathroom and tiles showroom in Douglas for a stunning range of bathroom styles and designs. Or get inspired online at bathline-bathrooms.im. Whether traditional or contemporary, Bathline's dedicated in-house bathroom designers will bring your dream bathroom to life. Bathline at Haldane Fisher. Designed for living.
Can you be sure your health and safety needs are covered? If not, do you have a good company lawyer? A training course for your staff with St John Ambulance could make a difference to someone's life in the workplace or beyond. Working and managing safely, risk assessment, fire marshal, moving and handling, and a whole raft of first aid courses are on offer. Discover how St John Ambulance can help keep your staff safe and keep you within the law by calling 674 387. That's 674 387 to help make a difference to someone's life.
No matter how much you need to dig or how much you want to dump, Fox Group Isle of Man offer an extensive range of plant hire, long-term lease and sales. We're the island's exclusive supplier for Louis Gong excavators with immediate delivery. Our machinery comes with a complete service package with finance plan options. Call John on 458946 to discuss your plant needs. Fox Group Isle of Man, part of the Fox Group of companies.
At EVF service stations, you can fuel yourself as well as your vehicle. Hot and cold food to go, chilled drinks, and even lottery tickets too. Great choice and value to make life more convenient. Fill up, fuel up with Ellen Vannin Fuels. Visit us at evf.co.im. Stocks and offers may vary between locations.
It's World Book Day, and here at Manx Radio, we're inviting you to get creative for your chance to win. We want to see you dressed up as your favourite book character. Whether it's from a novel, comic or fairy tale, this is your opportunity to bring your favourite character to life. All you need to do is share a photo of you and your costume on our pinned post, which is now live on our Manx Radio Facebook page. And you have until 8 o'clock tomorrow evening to share your photo. Get posting and you could be one of 2 lucky listeners to win a £25 book voucher. We'll announce the winners on Monday morning at 8:30. Celebrate World Book Day here on Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
It's 1:45. What are you dressing up as today? What's your favourite book character? I got a note in from Amy. Hi, Amy. And she just said, I loved Alan Garner, The Weirdstone of Brisingamen. Wow. It's a great book. Thank you for that. What would you dress up as? Text, email, call and WhatsApp, anything else. We're open line. Howard's on now. Hi, Howard.
Hi, Andy. No, just listen to some of the views and points of views on the 20 mile an hour limit. In some areas, yes, we have a 20 mile an hour limit up where we are, up in the Annaker area. But on the Cushing Road, and I'm at a house on that road quite often, and I see cars coming up and they approach the speed bumps at a hell of a rate, slow down, and then accelerate like Formula One in between the speed bumps. And this isn't other ones. I've even seen the buses coming up, and they hit those speed bumps at a hell of a rate. So they're doing a damn sight more than 20 mile an hour. So instead of putting signs up, put a policeman there with a speed camera. And a few fines and points and whatnot would certainly slow the traffic down in those areas. And they can move all over the island. They don't have to go spending a serious amount of money putting all new signs up and various things that go with them, the legislation, etc. But what I was talking to Chris about, the DOI, they want to be looking more in the lines of where they've had work done. They've just spent in the past couple of years, 3 years or so, £35 million on a road, the Promenade. And in lots of areas, and I drove along on Monday, the Promenade has fallen to pieces. And where you go over that raised crossing on Lord Street, when it comes out of Duke Street, that has fallen to pieces. The one where you cross the road by what used to be Clinch's Brewery down the harbour on the North Quay, that's fallen to pieces. Now, who's built all these? The DOI. And who's repairing them? Nobody. And I've just come down the Cool Road and turned into the top of Annaker, and that speed bump has fallen to pieces. So what damage has been done to vehicles that the DOI, in a sense, essentially, are responsible for because of their lack of maintenance?
Let me just ask you about 20 miles an hour again, Howard. How do you stop people who are determined to speed? I mean, because going at 20 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour through Annaker won't, you don't save any time going at 30 miles an hour. So it's always a tiny minority of people who will speed, and some people do a lot more than 30 through Annaker.
Oh, yes, I've seen them. And we're right by the school. And a lot of this is a tea time. Well, we're out of school and before school. I blame the mothers. Every morning we can virtually every morning hear the sirens going out about 8:30, and then you know again about 3:30, 4 o'clock. For what reason I do not know. I cannot say, but the emergency vehicles are going out that time. But I see them here up at the school, and I've spoken to one of the lads, one of the bosses in the DOI and the council and the MHKs, and they agree with the speed down by this school here. Even the headmaster, he agrees with the speed here is unbelievable at times. But coming up the main road, up Cushing Road, you can turn up into Farm Hill then, but there's no speed bumps. I don't know. I think that road is 30 mile an hour, and then on the other bits that you come off the sides, I think they're 20 mile an hour. But it's very confusing. Equally confusing, people my age, I don't know if you remember, when you came past Corkle's Garage to come towards Governor's Bridge, up to Corkle's Garage was 30 mile an hour. Beyond that, it went up to 40 mile an hour to Governor's Bridge, then back to 30. And that was used as a means of accelerating up through to overtake somebody to gain about 3 foot. You know, it was a silly method. It's gone now, but it was there. But the main point is, what are they going to do about the promenade? Because that is only 3 years old, and it's becoming now as bad as what it was for a 70-year-old road. And they've spent $35 million, and it's going to cost a serious amount more money to repair these raised ramps on the promenade. And I noticed the other day there was a section that's failing. I don't know whether it's one of the ironworks or whatnot, but because I had to watch the traffic. But that road is going to fail within 5 years.
Okay.
So the DOI want to put their ideas into order and get the road sorted out, because we all know that there's somebody within government, civil service, DOI, call it what they want, that wants to have an all-island speed limit. And this, again, is the thin end of the wedge and tapping at the speed limits or the lack of them on the island.
Okay, and somebody asked me the other day, why is the scaffolding round the camera obscura?
Well, it needs a new roof. The inside of the roof is wood, but on the outside it was a canvas cover. And this is down to the DOI again. They've got to do the work on it, but it's a registered building, and it's been held up at the moment. The rest of it, we're hoping to be open at Easter. I was up there Monday, and it's inside, it's perfectly all right. There's nothing wrong with the building. It's just it was storm damaged and all at the back. And the people who look after it are coming up to sort it out for us.
Okay, keep us informed with that, Howard. Everybody loves the camera obscura.
Yeah, well, I hope we get lots of people here this summer for us.
All right,
actually,
thanks, Howard.
Just before you go,
yeah,
I was on TikTok last night, and there was a beautiful sequence film of why you should come to the Isle of Man. And it showed you all different parts of the island and all aspects of the island, and it looked brilliant. And it was on for about a minute or so.
Okay. All right, we'll look for that on TikTok, Howard. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, why come to the Isle of Man, it's headed.
Okay. All right, thanks for that. Good to hear from you. George is on now. Hi, George.
Oh, hi. You'll have to bear with me a bit. I'm a bit slow.
Okay.
Yeah, I came across the prom days ago, and the concrete wall which they've built is cracked. The actual concrete is from one side, up the front, across the top, and down the back.
Is this a big crack or a hairline crack?
Yes. I've laid concrete and all the rest of it, and I know people who have done it. Wrong with the way they're doing that, but I thought I'll tell somebody. I haven't done anything before, but every time I walk past there, I check it. Now, a few months ago, that shape, which is on the front of the prom, it was falling off. The concrete was cracking, and I saw one of the workers there, God help him, he was sticking Unibond, because I asked him what he was putting back for the concrete to make it correct. And he showed me a tin of what it was using. It was Unibond. You can do it. Everybody uses Unibond for wood and everything. But on the prom like that, when the weather gets to it, it will fall off. And whether it's 6 months or 6 years, it'll be a mess.
Oh, my word.
Right, now that's the serious part. I think somebody should go down, have a look, and see what they're doing.
Okay.
If they're doing it right. The next thing is they're on about the 20 mile per hour speed limit in certain areas. I'm in Lakeside Gardens, and I look out the window here, and the cars are flying past. It's not that you make it a certain speed, it's who's going to check it, who's going to police it, and who. When you come through Onken and you head towards Laxey, before you go down the hill to Baldrine, there's just out of Onken, there's a 30 mile an hour sign that keeps flashing.
Yeah.
Everybody's flying past there on the way to Ramsey after they've gone to work in Douglas. Nobody checks it. Nobody's done. There's been a policeman standing there, and obviously he's doing his job correctly. There's nothing about it, really. Catches them, on the spot. And the other thing is when they're going through Lakeside Gardens over 30 mile an hour, I tried to slow one down. I threw a brick at it.
Right.
You've got to laugh. This isn't true.
Thank you for that. Yes.
I missed the car, but the people over the road are going to have to go to the MSPCA to get a dog.
All right. George, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Good to hear from you. Cheers.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
That's it. Well, that's a point. There is a serious point in there, and that is you can put all the 20 mile per hour speed limits that you want. You can cover the Isle of Man, built-up areas, with a 20 mile an hour speed limit. But if some drivers don't observe the limit, so what? So what? What's going to happen? Technology could help, of course. And I'm going to mention speed cameras. Ramsey Sprint Festival is cancelled for 2025. Sammy said, devastated by this. Straightliners have called off the festival for this year. Maybe there's going to be a future for it going forward. We'll see. Tomorrow, the Chief Minister's on Mannin Line. Alfred Cannon MHK will be here between 12 and 1 for you to call and message and text. In the meantime, if you want to leave a message on the answer phone, it's 682-631. The Chief Minister on Mannin Line tomorrow. Thank you for calling and listening today. And thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones.
WINT